Good evening. We'd like to welcome those of you here at the Slammer Theater, downtown Iberia, to our forum for candidates seeking the office of Iberia Parish Sheriff. I am Larry Henskins, your moderator for tonight's forum. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Greater Iberia Chamber of Commerce, the Daily Iberian, and the Leadership Iberia. The forum can be seen on the Chamber's YouTube channel. The address is printed on tonight's flyer, which is youtube.com/Good News Iberia. Also, I'd like to go ahead and let y'all know what the voting dates are. The last day to register to vote is September 24th. Early voting is from October 10th to October 17th. And election date is October 24th. At this time, I would like to go ahead and introduce the candidates. All candidates in this race are invited to participate, and I'm happy to say that all the candidates are here tonight. Those in attendance are Mr. Louis Ackle, Mr. David Spike Baudouin, Ms. Roberta Boudreau, Mr. Bobby Jackson, and Mr. Joe LeBlanc. Each candidate will have 9 seconds for an opening statement. 90 seconds. I only get 9 seconds. I feel like I'm at home. We will then ask a series of questions. I'll just see if y'all paying attention now, which each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. So each candidate will also be given one rebuttal card. That's something I wish I had in my house, but I guess I'll leave it later. That they can use to take 60 seconds to comment on something one of the other candidates said during their answer. Now, those candidates wishing to use a rebuttal card will hold up their card after each of the candidates have completed answering that round of questions. And when recognized, will get 1 minute to offer their additional thoughts. However, the candidates should be selective about when they use these cards, because once they use it, that's it. You don't get it back. Now, if you want to use a rebuttal card, just hold it up so we can see it, so we give you the opportunity for the rebuttal. After all the questions, each candidate will have 30 seconds for a closing statement. Now, we got to have a timer. So to assist the candidates in keeping time, we'll have a timekeeper and timing lights situated down in the front. Show them the lights, big boy. Candidates, when your time begins, the green light will come on. When you have 15 seconds left, the yellow light will come on. And when your time is up, the red light will come on. At that time, please go ahead and complete your sentence, and after that, then you'll hear this buzzer. And that's not good. Due to limits of time and to maintain a fair atmosphere, we ask that the audience hold any applause or other comments. All the questions I will ask tonight were predetermined. Questions were solicited from the public, and an independent panel reviewed the questions submitted and came up with those that are to be asked tonight. The panel members selecting questions for this forum were Tracy Landry, Marty Harrell, Rosalind Garrett, Cynthia Alexander, Dot Small, Ellen Switzer, Bart Falls, Kevin Romero, Pat Norris, Will Chapman, and Janet Falk. All these questions have been kept in strict confidence, and no one except the panel members and I have seen them. At this time, we'll start with open statements, and they drew for starting order. And Mr. David Baudouin, you're first.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, citizens of Iberia Parish. My name is David Spike Baudouin. I'm a 33-year career law enforcement veteran, having served 23 years with the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office and 10 years with the District Attorney's Office. I have worn this badge and my uniform proudly and professionally during that course of my career. Not once have I brought dishonor or disgrace to myself, my family, or my employer. As Sheriff of Iberia Parish, I will lead the department to protect and serve all of the citizens of Iberia Parish through my core beliefs of integrity, fairness, and service. I have both short-term and long-term goals to accomplish this task. My foremost short-term goal is to implement standards to bring morals and ethics to the department. Another short-term goal is to be accessible to the citizens that have entrusted me the opportunity to be their sheriff. Being proactive rather than reactive is one of my strong points. Having been a supervisor in two of the most critical divisions of the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office, criminal investigations, and detectives, and having worked in the trenches alongside the troops, I know what it takes to be a leader. My campaign is humble, and I'm not indebted to anyone. Therefore, I will stand up for what is right and not get run over by the weight of corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold your applause, like, if you don't mind, Mr. Jackson.
Yes. My name is Bobby Jackson, and I, along with Mr. Baudouin, am a lifelong citizen of New Iberia and Iberia Parish. I'm a 1982 graduate of New Iberia Senior High, a 1990 graduate of Louisiana State University with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and a 2001 graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. And my experience include, I worked as an IPSO narcotics officer. I worked as a police officer at Southern University. I worked as a New Iberia police officer, an ATC agent, an ATC regional supervisor, ATC chief of enforcement, and came back as an IPSO commander of criminal investigation. And I'm currently a business owner. Currently, I do background checks for Immigrations, Customs and Enforcement, and Department of Defense. My goals for this city and parish are to get accreditation for the different divisions of Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office. I think that's fairly strong a strong guess for us to do right now, because especially with the change of things that are coming around within the community. Currently, I am doing door-to-door campaigning and getting the feel of the community, and my time is out with that one.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, first I'd like to say thank you to my Savior, Jesus Christ, Chamber, and also all of you for attending. I think you had me off. Hello, hello. Okay, now, first I'd like to thank Jesus, my Lord and Savior, the Chamber, and all you people for attending here tonight. I have law enforcement experience both in criminal and narcotic investigation. I was an agent with the 16th Judicial Drug Task Force, which covers 3 parishes. And I was also an agent, cross-agent with U.S. Customs. My civil activities are with the Council on Aging, Habitat for Humanity, and United Way in SNAP. And I also like to say that in the last 2 administrations of the department, community policing is down to 0. We need to bring it back up. We need to get cops involved in the community, talking to people, not just pushing them or doing what they want to do. Because to get respect, you have to give it first. Respect, protect, and serve. That's what I'm about. I don't worry if Joe LeBlanc shines, as long as the community shines. And too many times, people who has calls, they go unattended. That won't happen in my administration. Because we are elected to protect and serve everyone. And we are supposed to treat everybody with respect. If we can't treat them with respect and protect and serve them, don't put a badge on, because you're not doing your job.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau?
Good evening. It's an honor and a privilege to be before you tonight. My name is Roberta Boudreau, and I'm running for sheriff. I have 25 years law enforcement experience. I have a BA in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. My leadership experience entails, I was a facilitator, the warden of the jail for in excess of 10 years. I also started out as an entry-level deputy there in 1990. Somewhere around 96, I went into the police academy and became a leader certified. And from there, I went into juvenile and detectives. I did a stint there for about 2 years. So I have executed arrests. I have sworn affidavits that have my name on them, and I have testified in court. and as a result of that, was able to get convictions. I'm running on community-based leadership, and by that I mean unity. I heard my counterpart talk about coming together and treating everyone fairly, and that's exactly what I intend to do. I think there's an extreme disconnect in government as a whole. I think our problem is way bigger than the Sheriff's Department. Although the Sheriff's Department is important and it's my goal to lead it, I think that we also need the help from the city and the parish entities as well. I think we as the citizens, the police officers, need to be more community involved with the citizens and be more attentive to their needs, handle each call on its own merits, and be more humble. I am Roberta, and I'm running for sheriff.
Mr. Ackle?
Thank you, thank you. For the Chamber, the Iberian, and whomever else is putting this on tonight for us. Thank the candidates for being here tonight to let the public see who we are and what we're after, what do we want to do. I'm Louis Ackle. I'm the Sheriff of Iberia Parish, and I have 49 years. I'm in my 49th year in law enforcement. One of the biggest things that brought me back here to be a sheriff is I heard too many times that people said they were not safe in their homes. That was disgusting to me. We have taken the sheriff's office, and I want you to put your thinking caps back on. Go back in years and look at what we had. Nothing. Crime was out of the realm. We have built a sheriff's office that I'm very proud of. I will continue the track that I'm on. There's two ways a sheriff's office can go, up or down. Mine is going up, and I'm going to continue. I fully intend to work as hard as I have in the past to keep the people safe in this parish. I hope that you will think about where we were, where we are today, and make the proper choice. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We'll start with the questions. Actually, we're going to alternate with each question. And the closing remarks will actually begin in reverse order from where we started open remarks. Now, if you be 90 seconds to answer these questions. First question, Mr. Jackson, you're going to be first with this one. And if you need him to repeat this question, just let me know. Compare and contrast yourself as a candidate for sheriff to your opponents. What about your education or experience or other aspects of your background makes you better qualified to be sheriff?
What makes me better qualified from the current sheriff to me?
Makes you better qualified to be sheriff?
First of all, I have a college degree. I have experience running a budget. I have military leadership experience, and I think that's important. I've been in charge of large amounts of troops, large amounts of assets, large amounts of movements, large amounts of emergency situations. And I think one of the things, I'm very well tempered. I generally learn to I learned to react with facts as opposed to emotions. And from what I gather with the current sheriff, he tends to deal more with emotions than facts. And I think that's the difference between us.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes. The reason I want to be sheriff is because I feel like the incumbent up here. I've been running, this is my 6th time. And I'm proud of Iberia Parish. And I want to correct the problems that we've been getting from the last 2 administrations in a way of the way they deal with the public. Everybody is not a criminal. But the last 2 administrations treat you like that. It ain't nothing for them to stop on the, when I was a cop, if you were cutting the grass, turn around and say, hi, I'm Deputy Joe LeBlanc. How's everything going in this area? Can I do anything for you? People says, I've been going door to door. They have never had that question asked of them. It's about respect, protect and serve. And again, I sound like a broken record. If you can't respect, protect and serve, and get on to the next case, do not put on a badge. because it's not about you. You don't work. The people do not work for you. You work for the people. And I do have law enforcement experience, both in criminal and narcotic investigation. I have a business, so I have business sense. All we have to do now is get number 72 elected, and I'll show you what I could do for this community as a whole, not as part.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau?
I think what makes me qualified to be sheriff is I've led and managed people before in the past, and I'm very firm, but I'm very fair. I think it's important as a supervisor and a leader that you realize that a position doesn't make you a leader. I think reaching out to your employees and proper management and being aware of what your responsibilities are to them, as well as what their responsibilities are to you, are an integral part of making and breaking you. As sheriff, every first line officer is a direct reflection of me. And if they're not comparable to my ethical and moral values that I possess today, they're not going to stay. I think that we have issues in the department now where the light is being shined on us negatively. I would like to change that. I think that with my psychological degree that maybe that we can catch some of these problems early on. I know that the citizens that I talk to on a regular basis just want fair treatment. I think that we need to train our deputies more to learn and understand special needs people, neglect and abuse in elderly cases. All those areas need to be addressed more critically because not everyone needs to go to jail. I think patience and compassion is paramount.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle?
How do I compare myself to myself? Is that the question?
What makes you better qualified to be sheriff? I didn't say what sheriff, who sheriff.
Well, with 49 years in law enforcement, a great deal of education from the state, a zeal to take care of business the way it's supposed to be taken care of. We have a section that is attentive to the elderly abuse. We have a sex crimes unit, something we never had before. We have a complete certified crime scene unit. We have a cyber crimes unit. We have a polygraph, all certified. These are the things that it takes to do the job. Now, as far as community-based policing, looking at a man right here who wears 3 hats. I'm the Marshal of Laurelville, the Chief of Police in New Iberia, and the Sheriff of Iberia Parish. And that is an awesome task, handling a $22 million budget and over 300 people with a 500-bed capacity jail. I do my best every day, because it is a reflection on me the way the officers act in the street. And I have taken some drastic measures with officers in the past who have disobeyed my orders or abused the citizens. I don't like being on trial. I don't think that I'm on trial, but I do want you to know that we work very hard to keep you safe, and that is my full commitment, not a promise.
Thank you. Mr. Baudouin?
We've all up here talking about experience, but we throw all of that out the window, and we all have to seek our morals and our values and our ethics. That's what I'm about. Morals, values, and ethics. Without that, no matter who's sheriff, if the leader is not morally sound and is not ethically fit to lead the department in the right way for the right reasons, the followers are going to be the same. You have to understand that a professional and highly trained law enforcement agency, the leader has to be a professional and highly trained leader. And that's what I've done in 33 years. I've committed myself, every time I've gone to a school, I've committed myself to be the best and do the best I could, not knowing that at one point in my career that I would be seeking the position of sheriff. But here I am today, and I'm glad that I have done what I have done in the trenches, probably one of the most up here that have been in the trenches for the longest with the guys in the field. I know what it takes. I know what it's about. We can talk budget. We can talk the whole 9 yards, the whole gamut. But when it comes time for the followers to follow a leader, they have to trust that leader. And that's what I've been doing all my career, is putting myself out there to be trusted. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, Mr. LeBlanc, you're first on this one. What are the 3 biggest issues facing the Sheriff's Department in the next 4 years? And give us a nugget of how you plan to address each.
Okay. Number one, it's our law enforcement in the city. Since the city got rid of law enforcement, and they're done with a contract with the parish, policing in the city is different than policing out in the parish. We're gonna have to, as citizens and who they vote for us in the city, is help them get their city police back. That's number one that we gotta focus on. Number two is our jail. The jail was built in 1990 with no allocated funds to run it. It was built for 250 inmates. Today, it has 585. And they didn't add on to the jail no way. So I want to know how the fire marshal let that stat change. We're going to have to look at either adding more jail space or privatizing the jail. Because when it was built, there was no allocated funds to run it. You don't build a house knowing you can't pay the note. So if the Sheriff's Department has to take more state and federal inmates than their local inmates, then that jail is not doing Iberia Parish any good. It pays you better to contract out to a local other sheriff's office somewhere, and you can save money. And our patrol units, we can buy patrol units in Iberia Parish, not other parishes.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Ms. Boudreau.
I think the top elephant in the room is obviously the city contract. When the city police was last in existence, we spent $4.7 million to run the department. When the contract was made with the Sheriff's Department, the Iberia administration back in the day when it was voted on by the people, as this is what they wanted, the contract was set at $2.95 million. Today it sits at 6.3. I think there's a gross amount of overspending going on in the department. I think there's money to be saved. I believe that when you had a $2.95 million budget of operation and a $4.7 million operation of the city police, you had more services in the city than you have today. You have a mandated contract which indicates that you should have at least 10 officers on the road all the time. I don't think that's being honored at this time. Another problem in the Sheriff's Department today is salaries. When 2008 to 2009 budget to where we are today, it has exceeded 1.3 more in monies spent. Your top heavy and your first line officers need to be compensated for the jobs they do so they stay here and become familiar with the people we serve on a consistent basis.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle? You'll make me put my glasses back on. What are the 3 biggest issues facing the Sheriff's Department in the next 4 years? And give us a nugget of how you plan to address each.
Okay, before we start the sheriff's office, and that is an erroneous calling it a department because I'm an elected official, and you never say the department of the governor, the department of the DA, the department of the mayor. It's the office of. And I don't know why, but that's a bug in my saddle when I have people call it the sheriff's department because it is headed by an elected official. The 3 things that I have to be concerned with is, one of the addresses is what's happening on our streets today with children carrying guns. having problems with children out there with weapons. The black community was dissatisfied, and I addressed that, and my hat is off to Jerry Brown. She's a local NAACP director here in New Iberia, and we got together and formed a coalition to address the problems. The coalition is supposed to meet when problems come up. Now, I am not on the board. I have appointed one of my officers to be on the board because I don't want to be swaying the board. The other thing is, they talk about the city contract. City contract is at $6.3 million. I am putting 14 people in the city of New Iberia every day. I have 14 on a shift, not 5 as when I took over. That's what you had, 5 for the city and the parish. And that's all you could afford at $2.9 million. I'm spending more money in the city now, than what that contract calls for, because you don't just go with 10 patrolmen or 12 patrolmen. You have the entire sheriff's office that has to service the city also. I know my life, y'all. I hate these things where you're limited to what you can say, but I'll give up. I yield.
I have to agree with the city contract as being top priority. I'm willing to sit down with the city administration, whoever that might be, city council, to discuss feasibility studies to see where we can bring this thing back in line. It's gotten out of hand. We need to get it back in line. Spending is extreme spending going on. There's some stuff that could be cut, and it can be streamlined to where it doesn't have to be 6-point-something million. The second problem I foresee is the jail. That's a big problem. The jail in itself has always been a thorn in my side as in my career. There was times when I was called out in the middle of the night and had to work cases all night long, made an apprehension, and got to the jail with the suspect and was turned down because there was no space in the jail. We have to remedy that. It doesn't have to be that way. We have to have space for our criminals out there. We have to, we have to be able to get the jail back in line. I know there's federal guidelines. I know there's state guidelines that we have to abide by, the protocol, but it has to be done. And third would be the patrol division. The patrol division has to be ramped up to where you don't see 3 and 4 units parked at one location. We need to be more out there to be deterrents in the community for crime.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, the first thing I think that is a problem is the overspending. I view as overspending, and one of the ways to cut it is look at the management structure again. Not to echo Ms. Roberta, he needs to flatten his management structure, meaning that I believe, as well as she does, that his management's too heavy. And one of the things that is they have a lot of buffers between division and the sheriff. And a lot of that can be eliminated. Just as well as he's paying them, they can take on more duties. And I believe that would save a great deal of money, and he could probably use those salaries to get more first-line deputies. And that would eliminate a lot of problems. Another thing is diversity within the department. I think he has one Oriental on the department, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2, and get a little bit mixture of what actually makes up our community. I think that's one of the problems that I'm hearing whenever I'm doing my door-to-door. Whenever a deputy goes to, let's say, the West End, that deputy usually doesn't look like what they're responding to, and they don't understand the problems that they're dealing with. So either get the deputy to mirror the community, or get the deputy responding to the community to understand the problem that they'll be dealing with, such as diversity training. And then the third section would be training in general. Just provide more training for the deputies.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreaux, you get the third question. What can you tell us about the Office of Sheriff finances, and what's your outlook for the next 4 years as far as areas where covering expenses will be an issue with which to contend, and where the money will come from to cover those issues?
Repeat that?
I'd be happy to. I got my own self confused. And I'm looking at the question. What can you tell us about the Office of Sheriff finances, and what's the outlook for the next 4 years as far as areas where covering expenses will be an issue with which to contend, and where the money will come from to cover those issues?
Well, I think I alluded to it on the question just before this, and I'll go back to it again. I think there's money to be saved on the city contract. I think there comes a time when we should have more dialogue and not monologue. I think the city contract is, again, the elephant in the room, and money can be saved there. I think a second way that money can be saved, because of the economy where we are today with the oil industry and the prices as low as they are, we're losing revenue, and it's hurting us. I think we need to restructure the management side of the department, and again, give more money to the first line officers so that we can retain individuals, so that we can become constants in the community. I can't understand, I looked at some numbers today, and the numbers are way up, and I don't see the services being provided with the numbers that are being distributed. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle?
I'm lost. Give it to me again.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed to ask you again what the question is.
That's okay. What can you tell us about the Office of Sheriff's finances, and what's your outlook for the next 4 years as far as areas where covering expenses will be an issue with which to contend, and where the money will come from to cover those issues?
I'm happy that you brought that subject up. When I took the sheriff's office, I had to borrow $4.5 million because it was a devastated, broke down office. In every respect, the jail, the vehicles, the equipment. Within a year, I was hit with, you got to change your whole communication system. That's another $1.4 million. John Kennedy, the Secretary of Treasury, told me there's no way you're going to get out of debt unless you pass a tax. My answer to him was, I live with a budget at my home. I'm going to live within a budget at the sheriff's office. And we did. We streamlined. And I want you to know that I'm very proud to tell you that the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office is not in debt. We're not in deficit spending. And we did not pass a tax. Now, as far as what can be done, listen to the people up here that say they can do this and they can do that, and they think that the city budget is, they're paying me too much. I would welcome to come to my office and show me what their ideas are. Because right now, the city has more calls than the parish. Everything we do is in the city of New Iberia. Every car wreck I've had, every accident I've had, every officer that was injured, every lawsuit comes out of the city. We're doing it the way it's supposed to be done, and we're going to continue doing it the way that it's supposed to be done, because the people in 2007 said, we want the sheriff to keep the contract, and I'm going to honor that. Thank you.
Under prior administration, there was a tax passed, law enforcement tax passed. That money generated some funds that were to be used for frontline officers, for salary increases, budget incentives, increases that the deputies themselves would look to work more harder to get what they deserved. So I think utilizing those funds there, it would come in handy, that you wouldn't have to cut here and cut there. You could use the funds appropriately, and it would take care of itself. Secondly, we talk about not wanting to pass taxes. Wasteful spending, you just assume pass a tax if you're going to have wasteful spending. There's wasteful spending going on. You have to look at it as a whole. There's wasteful spending that's taking place in this department that needs to be reined in. And I think if you can get a grip on the spending and get a grip on the city contract and put the funds that were utilized for specific purposes and use them what they were intended for, you wouldn't have to worry about finances. Everything would take care of itself.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Yes. First of all, I think one of the the things again would be to pull in the spending again. But I'm glad Mr. Acker brought up lawsuits. It would be a good idea to pull in lawsuits. It'd be, that comes back to my training. Give the officers training again on how to deal with people, because a lot of that has something to do with dealing with people. Again, not to bring up wounds, turning a dog loose on somebody in the jail is going to equal a lawsuit. I mean, that's a given right there. That would be something that you would train a deputy not to do. And, just different things like that would be something that you shouldn't be doing. But getting back to more civil things would be more like, simple things like cutting 10% across the board on the budget, like fuel, like overtime, like different things like that.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes, that's a good deal Bobby brought up there. And when I used to be in law enforcement in the 80s and 90s, patrol would get a new set of units as they needed it. The rest of us would get hand-me-downs from the state or from the seizures. Today, if you notice, everybody driving Yukons. I'd like to drive one of them things. So that's one way of cutting back. If you're making narcotics cases and you seizing vehicles, use them in your department, such as for juvenile, detective, narcotics. You don't need it with all the bells and whistles. Each one of them with bells and whistles, you're looking at a good $6,000 more, just so they can have all them blue lights flashing. That's not what it's about. It's about respect, protecting, serving the people. So if you're going to waste their tax dollar, then you don't worry about the people. We have officers right now that live in other parishes. I got a problem with that. And the problem is we got to foot the gas and stuff for them to go back and forth. They're spending our tax dollar in another parish when they could be employing people here, and because we need revenues. And as your sheriff, I will strive to cut that budget with all this foolish spending, because half the units they have over there, they could have saved.
Thank you. It sounds sometimes as if city officials suggest the office of sheriff holds the city hostage to ever-increasing costs for the contracted services the city receives, and then complains about lack of service like adequate law enforcement against speeders and such. What's your position on the contract with the city of New Iberia to provide law enforcement services within the city?
Well, first and foremost, understand this. The city the size of New Iberia and every other city in the state, their budget is somewhere around 11 to 12 million for the same size of the city of New Iberia. We're doing it for 6.3. I've not had the mayor complain to me about anything as far as things are concerned. We get citizens call, they're speeding on my street. We'll send the radar out. Usually it's a citizen that call, we catch speeding. And then now they don't want the radar anymore. Repeat your question, please. You got me going up here, pal. I tell you.
It sounds sometimes as if city officials suggest the office of sheriff holds the city hostage to ever-increasing costs for the contracted services the city receives, and it complains about lack of service, like adequate enforcement against speeders and such. What's your position on the contract with the city of New Iberia to provide law enforcement services within the city?
Originally, I said that the people of Iberia Parish, if I recall, in 2007 voted for the sheriff's office to keep the contract. I am not holding the city hostage. They're holding my budget hostage by having to put more money in the city. More money in the city than their little contract pays for. And all these people talking about saving and cutting and saving and cutting, sent them to my office to show me where they'd save and cut. And we did raise our people's salaries when I took office. They're still getting raises.
Like I said earlier, I'm willing to sit down with the administration, whoever it might be in the city, and look over that contract and tweak it and fine tune it if it has to, be that way, to where we can save some money in the city of New Iberia. I'm willing to go to conduct feasibility studies to see exactly where we can go with the contract. If it's whether some of the deputies would want to go back and be city police officers, if it's whether, as sheriff, I can give back some of the units that are on the road that I wouldn't need anymore, give them back to the city. The city would be just obligated to get insurance and salary, upstart on the salary. If you save probably in the range of 3 to 4 million on the contract, just by doing those simple things that I suggested, then the mayor, whoever the administration is, can take over and start from anew with their own budget and get it back to shape. I know it's going to take an exorbitant amount of money to do that, and it's not going to come easy. But the finances that are on that contract can be worked out and tweaked, and I think it can be done. I really do. We'd have to sit down and compare apples to apples, but I really think it can be done.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes, be glad to. If, it sounds sometimes as the city officials suggest the office of sheriff holds the city hostage to ever-increasing costs for the contracted services the city receives, and then complains about the lack of service like adequate enforcement against speeders and such. What's your position on the contract with the city of Iberia to provide law enforcement services within the city?
Again, I think that the city, it's the city's decision whether or not they want the city police back, but also they have to realize that if they want the sheriff's office to have it, they have to pay the cost of what it costs to operate it. Again, like I said before, I'm a person that deals in facts. Again, one of the things I do is I look at numbers. I figure out what it costs to operate it. One of the things that I would do is, offer them to take it back piecemeal by piecemeal, division by division. If they want patrol, let them take patrol 1 year, CID the next year, crime scene the next year. We'd work something out like that. And if that would be feasible to them, that would be okay with me. And, we could work something out that way. But if they want the sheriff's office to keep it, I could show them the exact cost of what it costs to operate it, and they would have to go with that. Again, I wouldn't overcharge them, but I would charge them a fair price for it, and I could show them the facts on paper what it costs. And again, one thing we talked about whenever I'd run the first time was performance indicators, like response times. Again, I don't know if they're getting that now. I know that it was promised to them before in the time I ran again for Mr. Ackle, but I don't know if they're getting those things. But you do, every contract that I've ever been a part of, you always had somebody give you money, you give me some sort of performance back. And with that performance, they have some way to measure that performance. And I think that the city should be getting some way to measure that level of performance, and it should be being met, or they should have some penalty attached to that contract.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, okay. In reference to the contract with the city, it jumped up, just like Ms. Roberta said, to this ungodly number. The sheriff's department owes some responsibility to the citizens of the city to give them protection. So if the city is in a bind for law enforcement, why can't the sheriff's department donate some used vehicles and stuff to the city and help them build back their force that they once had? Because they had a good force. They were top heavy, sure. Just like the sheriff's department is top heavy. The deadhead gets the money and the worker gets nothing. Same old, okay? But if we work together as a community, we can get law enforcement back into the city simply by getting people off their duff to go vote on election day. Because this city took a hard hit when they got rid of NIPD. And I was a sheriff deputy at the time. And I was against it. Because I knew exactly what's going on today was going to happen. Because you have to have people in there that care. And right now, people, we don't have that. We have more officers that live out of town. They could care less if they see you at Walmart or at, okay.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau.
We're back at the elephant in the room. It seems to be a hot topic. I absolutely believe that contract is holding the city hostage. I can recall instances where cars were parked and said, if you don't pay me, I'm not going to service you. I think there's ways and means to get around the contract. I think, again, if we have dialogue instead of monologue, that can be accomplished through intergovernmental agreements. I don't think all services need to be consolidated, but I do believe that some should be. That would be CID and warrants. I don't see why the city couldn't have its own traffic division. And with an intergovernmental agreement, and obviously sitting down with the city leaders and working out the details and the particulars, I think it can be accomplished. It gives us more visibility in the city, which is absolutely what we need. There's nothing more viable as a crime deterrent than visibility. I think that quality control measures are important. I don't think there's anything in place right now in the department for that in any way, not for patrol, not for detectives, and for sure not between the city and the sheriff's department. I think there definitely needs to be some accountability. There needs to be some kind of liaison. I know they did away with the position, but if the city has a vested interest and generates money and has to pay for a service, then I think they should have some direct oversight on what that service is being provided and how it's being distributed.
Thank you. Question number 5, Mr. Baudouin, you're first on this one. What's your position on using trustees to provide needed community services?
I've always been a proponent to use the trustees to save the parish and the city money, if that's a possibility. I know there are times and instances where you can't send trustees because of the safety factor involved, there's liability issues involved, but when it can be done, it should be done. It would save the parish and the city both on the money that the sheriff's department and the city would have to pay to gain the work that the trustees could do. It's a good thing for the trustees. It gives them an advantage to get out, to maintain trustee status, to get out and provide those services. There were some trustees at this little function in Lydia this last weekend, and they did an amazing job. And if they're out there to do the job and do it properly, I think it's a good asset to the community, and I will, as sheriff, I will allow the trustees to continue to work in a safe and efficient manner to be able to help the city and the parish to save money.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I, along with Mr. Baudouin, feel the same way. Trustees should be fully utilized as long as it's for public purposes, public buildings, public parks, public roadways. Have them cut grass, have them pick up trash, have them clean up the roadways, have them clean the bayou, have them do all kinds of things, have them clean the office. Put them to work, get them busy. I was in West End just the other day, and they had a gentleman that I was talking to while politicking. He had spent some time in the jail, and he was like almost begging me, if I wasn't sheriff, to put people working in the fields. And he had spent some time in the jail, and he was wanting to spend time, if he ever would go back, to be a trustee. If I would ever get elected, the police put him as a trustee.
That's a new one.
I didn't understand his reasoning, but I mean, even he would have wanted it to do it. And I said, yeah, that's fine with me. It works. And he even was saying that if I don't trust him to be a trustee, put him on a chain gang. I said, that'd be fine with me too.
Yeah. You can't make that stuff up.
No, I can't. I'm serious. My wife was with me. But
Yeah.
I'm all for it, as long as for public reasons.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes. Working the trustees, everybody in here works at a job. You sweat. So why should we have to pay for the officers or for the parish council to do it or the city council to do it when they up there sucking up air conditioning? I want to make it to where they don't come back. Put them working. We used to have a good garden at the jail. And through Mr. Romo's administration, we used to have a garden year round. Now we just have it every 4 years. You know, that's not what it's about. They used to give stuff to, with the inmates planting and stuff, would feed St. Francis Donna, any nonprofit organization. We're gonna get that back. Because if I have to work, I promise you, they're gonna work. Make it so they don't wanna come back every day. And I'm not saying you gotta beat them, step on their throat with your shoes like some things went on, you know, and hit them in the head with something and kill them. I'm not saying that. Treat them with respect, and you'd be surprised what you can get out of a trustee. Because I used to use them at the Little League ballpark to go clean up after the games, and they were all ready to go. Oh yeah, for the kids, oh, Mr. Joe, we're going. Okay? Every day, if you pass down Admondale, you see trash all over the place.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
know?
LeBlanc.
What?
Thank you.
Okay.
Call you Joe Buzzer LeBlanc. Roberta?
I'm gonna start out by saying, trash attracts the criminal element. It tends to lead people, the criminal element, to believe that you don't take pride in your community. So I'm a strong proponent of putting the guys out there and having to pick up the garbage. I'm a strong proponent of programs in that prison to help them get reacclimated back into society. I believe right now it's just a revolving door. I think absolutely inmate labor is a benefit to the parish and the city and the citizens it serves, as long as it's in a public way. I don't think it should be used for private. It's illegal to do that. I would never be a proponent of that. I think that if we can clean up our city and clean up our parish, then the criminals are less likely to hibernate here. As I understand it now in the jail, you have trustees who work, but there's nothing else, no other programs inside there to try to take and teach them skills and educational things they need, and labor, learn how to fill out a resume. All these programs benefit us on the back end. If you just stick them in there and hoard them up like animals, that's how they come out. And they go right back in. And then the end result is we become victims. So we need to do a better job at that.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle?
Yes. Do I use trustees, inmate labor? Absolutely. We have, Warden can correct, 40-plus acres of crops that we grow constantly, not every 4 years. We use the crops in my kitchen, and we sell to restaurants. We sell to, if you buy groceries or vegetables at whatever the name of that place is on Kali's Saloon, Fresh Pickings, they buy. My inmates do all of the work at the jail. We have another section, we just started growing peppers for a pepper company. We do sell to people like Bruce's Foods and different entities call and say we want all of these different types of crops. So we furnish them, but they have to pay for it. I have a body shop, paint and body shop, auto mechanic shop, welding shop, electrical shop, plumbing shop, carpentry shop. And I have asked for someone to come in and work with these inmates and get them certified to give them a hand up instead of a handout. I can't make the system, the state system, do that. But one of the things that I've advocated, instead of constantly wanting inmates, which can be very dangerous, it depends on what you're dealing with, use the people that are sentenced to community service. Let them report and start picking up and cutting grass, because most of them don't do anything at all when they're given community service.
Thank you. The next question, we're actually going to allow y'all 180 seconds to complete this, answer this question. There have been numerous complaints made locally against sheriff's deputies and the office of sheriff, alleging officers have been overly aggressive in the response to some instances involving African Americans. Too rough in taking suspects into custody, efforts to intimidate, and other issues that alleged deputies sometimes have a tougher response when dealing with minorities and others in the community. How will you, as sheriff, address your officer dealings with minorities during the next 4 years? Mr. Jackson.
Yes, like I said before, I think that has a lot to do with first of all, the department mirroring society, and second of all, diversity training. And again, that starts off, leadership starts at the top. The management has to be the example. I think they're just doing what they taught. And I think one of the things they need to do is everyone should be treated like they should be treated. I've always treated people like I would like to be treated. And I always told people that work for me, you should treat people like people, unless you have a reason not to treat them like people. Don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place to use force, but you always be respectful regardless. Even if you have to use force, you still be respectful. And that's always been my policy on anything. There's no need to talk down or dirty or anything like that to anybody, even if you do have to use force.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes, here we go. People getting beat up again. Okay. It all falls back on the main man. If he lets it happen, they're going to continue to do this. And true, we got some cops with attitudes. We have some of them that are great. And we lost a bunch of them to another parish because of the ones like to treat people bad. If you're going to put on a badge to respect, protect, and serve somebody, you don't see a fireman going to put out a fire using gasoline. It just doesn't work. So why would our officers, because they always got 6 or 7 units, go try to defuse the situation, and you have more attitude than what you're going to try to defuse? People, it's about respect, protect, and serve. I'm not saying you don't have to do your job. I did mine. I can count on one hand in all my years of law enforcement on how many times I had to throw a person to the ground, and I never get to 5. But I did my job, and I did it with pride and respect, the same way I want it. Because if you want respect, you have to give respect, or it ain't gonna come. You talk about people being shot all over the place. The good ones are getting killed because of what the bad ones started. We have to start changing this around, people. We have to concentrate on our Iberia Parish. Get back community policing. You know, don't think everybody's a thug on the street, because you might need that person one day to save you. Don't tell them to shut the F up and get on the side. That's what a lot of people have told me during my campaign. Is that the way you want to be treated in this room? No. And believe me, we still have a lot of good cops there, because I know them, and they know who I'm talking about. And I'd give my life for them, because they're good at what they do. They're just getting a bad name for the bad cops, and it's not fair to them. And as your sheriff, the bad eggs are gone. The good ones are staying. Just as simple as that. Because we want to give the department back to the people where it belongs. Okay? We, the people, are who we work for. The people don't work for us. And it's time we learn that. And we can do it together. Thank you. Number 72, don't forget, man. I need y'all.
Ms. Boudreau.
I think we need some sensitivity training. I think we need extensive training, actually. I think that as first line officers, when we go out on the scene, 9 out of 10, we're going into an escalated situation, and our job is to diffuse it. I think in today's world, especially here in the most recent past, it's exactly the opposite. We have fueled the fire time and time and time again. I think it's important that we take every call and handle it on its own merits. I don't care if you responded to this same house 5 times and the person was a donkey, to use another word. It doesn't mean that when you respond the 6 times, they're still going to be a donkey. I think that you need to play the what-if game in your mind and prepare for just about anything, because that's what you should do as an officer. But I think you also should keep an open mind and be compassionate about the job that you do. Just because you put on a badge doesn't give you a sense of entitlement and an ego. Mr. Joe has said it all night long. Respect is earned. I sincerely believe that. I think that as a whole, everyone out there in the community in Iberia Parish just want to be treated fairly. I don't think it matters what color your skin is. I think that everyone should be treated fairly. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle.
Go with your question again, please.
There have been numerous complaints made locally against the sheriff's deputies and the office of sheriff, alleging officers have been overly aggressive in their response to some incidents involving African Americans. Too rough in taking suspects in custody, efforts to intimidate, other issues that allege deputies sometimes have tougher response when dealing with minorities than others in the community. How will you as sheriff address your officer dealings with minorities during the next 4 years?
Thank you. We have a disciplinary board. We have a fleet safety board, among other things that we've implemented. I don't think that anybody in this room, including everybody sitting up here at this table, can say that there's never been an incident that was called to my attention that I didn't take action on. My entire rhetoric with my people is you will treat the people the way you want to be treated, or put your sister, your mother, or your family in that place. If they get out of line, I deal with them. Many have lost their jobs because of their attitudes on the street. And I'm not going to put my gloves on to continue. I demand professionalism. Bring it up about the African American, I'm sure that's because of the Victor White, whatever it is, made more fanfare, but the local black community is not up in arms about it. It's only this idiot from New Orleans, Ray Brown, that keeps coming here and raising all kinds of hell. Problem is that I do address, but the biggest problem I got is bring it to me, don't bring it to the TV station or bring it to the newspaper. I don't work for them. I work for the public. Bring me the problem so I can address it. When it comes to me, it is well addressed.
You still got time.
I'm finished.
Okay.
I'm going to see what my rebuttal is.
Okay, we have our first rebuttal card tonight.
How much time I get for a rebuttal?
What was
It doesn't say. Put the red light on.
what was it?
I don't think this question is about the Victor White case. I think this question is about the department has spent in excess of $1.1 million in civil lawsuit settlements thus far. And I think it's important that we focus on, all night long, we've talked about how we can save money in the sheriff's office. We talked about being top heavy. We talked about the city contract. And this is just another case of unnecessary spending.
Thank you.
And I
Second
will
rebuttal.
rebut.
Yes, sir, you got 60 seconds.
Yes, sir. As sheriff, you're going to have lawsuits. You work 300 people, you're going to have lawsuits. But when you become sheriff, you inherit your previous sheriff's lawsuits, including the warden then, who had 25 lawsuits in the clerk of court for civil rights violations that my office had to defend.
Thank you. Please hold the applause down. Please hold it down. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Baudouin.
Yes, sir. Getting back to the topic at hand, I believe that highly trained professional law enforcement officers are going to treat people with respect. For 33 years, like I said earlier, I have worn my badge, my uniform, proudly and professionally. As the sheriff, I would continue to do so and would expect the deputies under me to be the same. It all goes back to morals and ethics, and I highly believe that if you get good morals and good ethics, it doesn't matter what community you're in. For 33 years, when I went into the communities, African American, minority, whatever it was, never wore a vest. I didn't have to. I treated people with dignity and respect, and I got it back. I treated people in the way that I would want to be treated. I put myself in their shoes. People make mistakes. Does it mean that they're criminals? No. You have to deal with those mistakes. Their problem becomes your problem. So if you deal with it in a professional way, in a highly trained way, you're not going to have their problem to deal with. Talk to people. I've always learned when we were in the academy, you always talk your way out of things, because a lot of times you're going to be in a bind, and sometimes what you say is going to get you either further in that bind or get you out of that bind. So if you have that respect and that training that it takes to be on the streets, that's what I'm going to improvise. The training, highly trained professionals to answer calls for service, no matter what it is. That's your frontline officers, and they will respect the public. No matter what color you are, no matter what community you come from, you will be treated with dignity and respect. Morals and ethics. It goes back to what I've been saying since I sat down at this table. Doesn't matter who the sheriff is. If you don't have morals and ethics in your department, it's not going to work. It will not work. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I hear rebuttal, Corey? Mr.
Yeah,
LeBlanc?
I had a rebuttal on what Mr. Ackler had said earlier.
Okay.
She cut me off. I was like this and you didn't hear me.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go
He
ahead.
was saying that anything that he knows about his deputies are doing, he corrects it. Is that? And he has often told the media that I arrested 12 of my own.
13.
But the media, 13?
13.
Would you care to give us the name to the 13?
No, we can give you the file on it.
Could you?
And I can tell you I've got 2 that I sent to the FBI for civil rights violations.
Or you just
Okay.
terminate them?
I'm not on trial here, Joe.
I know
That's
you're
close.
not, but I
That's
think you
okay.
need to answer some questions that the public,
No.
is not getting. So I think we need a debate is what we need. We don't need question and answer.
Okay. Thank you. Sheesh, we'll move on to the next one. Mr. LeBlanc, the DARE program was an example of a proactive effort to reduce crime among our youth, but unfortunately it's been eliminated. What will you do to try to deter youth crime, not just related to harsher sentences or other punishment, but involving proactive and preventive efforts?
Okay, the DARE program is desperately needed. And they got a lady sitting in her front office that used to run it, Ms. Joanne Jacob in the front row right here. And she had an excellent,
What shirt she got on?
well, yeah, but she got both of my shirt, but I'm gonna tell her she did a good job. Okay? That's fine. Okay? Because it's not about
losing
me,
control.
it's about telling the truth. And yes, we do need the DARE program, and it's no longer there. Just like I had a youth group with the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office called Explore Post 582. I took young adults from the age of 14 to 21 years of age. Spike was working it with me. Everybody thought Joe was getting paid for it. They went for the job when I left. There's no more group. No, we need these groups. We need our youth. And we need the elderly. So we need to get a program such as the DARE into the schools, because if you don't train them, the streets will. And we want to stop them before they get to the streets. Thank you.
The buzzer didn't go off yet.
Okay, in other words,
No. Thank you. Ms. Boudreaux.
I think the DARE program is a definite need in the parish, in any parish. And again, it goes back to fiscal responsibility. I believe that it's something that can come back. I also know that youth programs are critical. I think that we need to reach down into the youth in the elementary level, because you got DARE and you have SROs, but I think we need to reach deeper into the youth. I think elementary level, I could envision my guys going in and having lunch and breakfast with the children and building a lifetime bond with those kids. There's nothing more impressionable than a child. When you go on a scene and you're an officer and you see a child, 9 out of 10 times it's not a good situation. So their perception of us is sometimes tainted. I think it's important that we reach them at a young age so we can change that. I have a guy that I want to bring in who's going to offer some programs in the summertime to keep these kids busy. One of the first things that was shut down when this administration came in was the little place on Hopkins Street where we had like after-school things. I think it was a plus for us. I don't know why. I guess he needed the money elsewhere to waste it. I think we could have saved it. It was a plus. It was something where we could reach out to our youth and our children after school, and I'd like to see it come back.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle?
Yes, sir. The DARE program.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a great program. I had the program, but I was getting $20,000 grant, and it was costing the taxpayers $120,000. Do the math. Everybody's up here concerned about cutting. I had to cut. It's just that simple. I cannot continue, especially when my narcotics people go out and make arrests, and there's an individual selling drugs on the street with a DARE t-shirt on. We have done a lot of good with that, haven't we? There are a lot of programs that should be, but you got to go ahead back and remember that the sheriff's office functional as a criminal and civil department, sheriff's office. All of these wonderful programs, I'm wondering why our civic organizations don't pick it up. Why does everything have to be on the sheriff's back? Sheriff would work with. I tried to put a boxing club together. That fell apart because no one wanted to do anything with it. There's one now, and I support it greatly, to get the kids off the street. I've been concerned about youth. We're losing the children of tomorrow, the adults of tomorrow, because of what we're seeing in the streets. And we have worked hard towards it. But you can't implement all of these programs and then come back and say, well, we're going to cut your budget, we're going to take this money, or you're wasting money. Some people need to do some studying the budget before they get up here and start talking about how they're going to run the sheriff's office.
Thank you.
I myself have been personally involved with the DARE program. On numerous occasions, I have gone as a representative of the 16th Judicial District Attorney's Office, and on behalf of Ms. Joanne Jacobs and the other instructors of the DARE program, to speak to the youth at the DARE graduations. I did that numerous years, and I was devastated when I was told that the DARE program was going to be cut. Mr. Ackle might have had a reason to cut it, I understand that. But like he said, there's other avenues, there's other streams to get your money from. Civic organizations, businesses, I'm sure those people would have stepped up to put these kids, to put the DARE program back to where these kids have something to look forward to. Along with Mr. LeBlanc, I ran the Acadiana Law Enforcement Juvenile Program, the Law Enforcement Explorer Scouts. That program in itself was a very rewarding program to the youth in our parish. My God, we brought kids that were straddling the fence. We brought them back. We took them back from 14 to 18. These kids were on the straddling the fence and about to go the wrong way. And because of our involvement, we brought those kids back. We gave them a purpose. We gave them something to consider. And that's my goal, to bring these programs back. I know it can be done. We just got to get out there into the community and make it happen.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
I agree the DARE program should have never been cut, and I think, I don't know the circumstances why it was. I'm sure Mr. Ackle had his reasons, whatever they were. But Ms. Joanne, again, whenever I was with the sheriff's office, I supervised that division, and she was a very effective DARE instructor. And I even know that even more so because she taught DARE at the same school that my wife teaches, and had pretty much a lot of encounters with my wife and some of the same children that my wife taught. So I know that she had a profound impact on the kids. So again, I would do everything I could to get it back up and running, to include looking for funds myself, going out to the community looking for donations. If politicians could go around trying to get donations for their campaign funds, they can go around trying to get those same people that donate to their funds to donate to programs like that. You know, I don't see why it should be a problem, because they do the same thing for themselves. They could do it for a program as that.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say about that.
We're running a little long, so what I'm gonna do is give you 2 questions, pick one. Ms. Boudreaux, you're first. Here's your chance to direct a question to one or more of your opponents. Be clear to whom you're directing your question to. Keep it short and to the point, and only of those to whom it's directed will respond. Okay, that's one question. The other question is, what's an issue that's not been raised tonight, or perhaps one that's been raised, which you think needs more discussion, and your thoughts about it? 90 seconds.
The sheriff brought up the fact that I had been civilly sued 25 times. In my capacity as warden, yes, that's always the case. I don't think there's a warden in the country who's not been civilly sued. But the difference between he and I is there's not $1.1 million in suits against me that have been settled. I think it's important that the citizens realize that that costs the taxpayers money. We need to be more fiscally responsible so that we can pay our first line officers more money, get them integrated into the communities, get familiar with the people we serve, and the people can get familiar with the people serving them. I think it's paramount for us to do this because it's the only way we can rebuild the relationship between the citizens and the sheriff's department. There is a severe disconnect at this moment. There's no trust. There's no respect. It's almost a bad situation. I don't know how we haven't had a shooting or 2 of an officer. We have been very, very fortunate. I guess I have to say thank you to the citizens at this point for not doing that. I just think we need to be more disciplined and more humble when we're on the road.
Thank you. Mr. Ackle?
Which question?
It's 2 questions.
Okay.
Here's your chance to direct a question to one or more of your opponents. Be clear to whom you are directing your question, and keep it short and to the point, and only those to whom it's directed will respond. Question number 2. What's an issue that's not been raised tonight, or perhaps one that has been raised, which you think needs more discussion, and what's your thoughts about it?
I can ask anybody a question? up
Yes,
here?
sir.
Yeah? Or what is the most important issue needs to be discussed?
Yes, sir.
I think what needs to be discussed is the people in this parish better take a hard look at what's sitting at this table and what type of answers they've come up with tonight. None of them have any idea what budgeting is. None of them have any idea how hard we work in the sheriff's office to maintain the respect from the public. We have not lost respect. We have not been disconnected. We have had problems in the past. I addressed those problems, and I addressed them vigorously. And I'm going to continue to do that because I think that what needs to be done is to take a hard look at who's going to sit in this office for the next 4 years and what are they going to do with it. Are they going to make it a kindergarten for children? Or are they going to be police work and keep you safe in your homes? I intend to keep you safe in your homes and let the schools, which is the law for the schools that they're supposed to teach drug education and not the law enforcement, but the law enforcement had it for a little while. It was given a large grant and I was cut to nothing. And losing this young lady was a hell of a loss to me because she's great at what she did. But I just no longer could afford the automobile, the insurance, and the salary. Just that simple.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Baudouin.
Yes, sir. I'm just going to basically talk about what I can do as the next sheriff. I'm not going to harp on anybody's shortcomings because we all have shortcomings. We've all been in this position. All of us at this table have numerous years of experience. and to base and to point fingers is not the right thing to do. What I can do for you as sheriff is to go out into the public. I want to be part of New Iberia. This is our community. I have to live here. You have to live here. I want to be part of the community. I want to go out into the schools, talk to the kids, read to the young students, talk to the older ones. Let them know that we're there for them. I want to go out to the businesses. I want to shake hands with the business owners to let them know that the department is there for you. Whenever you need, just pick up that phone and call. I want to go out into the nursing homes and touch base with the older people. That's my forte. That's what I'm about. I was an ombudsman for the state of Louisiana, for the elderly. I want to continue that. I want to mentor to the troubled youth. I want to be part of the community. That's what I want to be. Finger pointing, we can do that all day, and it's not going to work. These fine people up here have dedicated their career to law enforcement, to protecting you, the citizens of this parish. I want to continue to do that. Please, give me that opportunity. Give me the opportunity to get out there and be among y'all. I'm part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I think I'm going to do what Mr. Baudouin has done. We all know Mr. Joe and Ms. Roberta and Mr. Ackle and Mr. Spike. So I'm just kind of do what Mr. Spike done. This is our community. We all must live here. We all have the same problems. We all have the same issues. We all have the same concerns. I don't know what Mr. Ackle believes or not believes, but there is a disconnect. I've been out in the community over these last few months, and there are people who are concerned with different things that the department's done. They have some segments of the community that are fine with things, and some segments of the community that feel like it's a police state. I'm sorry to think that, but that's just how some of them feel. Our job up here is to try to get everyone together and be on the same page of music, and to have everyone feel the same, because it's all of our community, whether you white, black, Oriental, or whatever you are. This is our community, and we all must feel the same about it. And whoever takes over has to be the leader to guide everybody to be the same and to feel the same about it. Because again, this is all of our communities. We all want to raise our grandchildren here, our great-grandchildren, and so on. I've grown up here, I lived here all my life, and this is where I want to be for the rest of my life.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes, I'm going to echo on what Spike and Mr. Jackson said earlier. It's about getting back in the community like where we used to be, the three of us. On the streets, meeting with people, arresting them, and also having the respect to treat the next person with dignity. And that's what it's about. Because if you read the back of a person's card, don't just look at the front. You see? Because that's just good for the exterminator. But if you read the back of this thing, okay? It says that I volunteer with Council on the Aging, Habitat for Humanity, SNAP, United Way, and many local churches. I work with Little League Baseball. I work with handicapped kids teaching them how to bowl. If you wasn't involved in the community before to try to make it a safe place, find out what they're doing, keep them off the streets. Because you do have 3 good people up here. Correction. 4. Let me correct that. 4. Sorry, I gotta apologize. I gotta apologize. I thought, I just lost it for a minute. Okay? But I would like to say this, okay? No matter how much questions we answer up here today, and I've done it 6 times before in a total of 20 years.
Joe, you can complete your closing statement.
Oh, no, please, I got something to show.
No, well, you got a closing statement. You can do it in your closing statement.
Okay.
We'll have 30 seconds for closing remarks from each candidate. We'll start with Mr. Ackle and work our way back this way.
First and foremost, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. We live in a great country. Although we have a lot of problems in our country today, I think evil is more predominant than it has ever been. I work at the sheriff's office. I run a sheriff's office. I run a sheriff's office that has a city. Wait, I just started, Bob. 30 seconds. Jesus Christ.
Don't take long.
You got good candidates. We have an election. It's your choice, not mine. And I thank you, each and every one of you, for your attention tonight and allowing me to be up here.
Thank you. Ms. Boudreau, hold your applause. We'll give you a chance for y'all to clap later.
Are we coming backwards?
Yeah, we're coming back this way. Surprise, surprise.
30 seconds, right?
Go.
Real quick, I just want to say, we live in a democracy, and it's simple. You've had an opportunity to listen to all 5 of us tonight. I didn't lose count. So I want to say, take your time, assess each of us, and vote for who you think is the best qualified. If you're satisfied with the services you received today, then vote for the incumbent. If not, you have 4 viable choices here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LeBlanc.
Okay, being I got 30 seconds.
Yeah, you better hurry.
And this is the voting of what took place in 2011. You had 47,429 registered voters in Iberia Parish. 30,000 stayed home. You're not going to make change unless you get out there and want it. And anybody, if you want to know, just tell me on what box you vote in. I'll show you how many of your people stayed home. And mine alone, it was 1,745 at Daspit Elementary. 1,133 stayed home. Now, if y'all want to see how much they had in y'all's, meet me after this is over. I'll be glad to show you.
Thank you, Mr.
But that's the
LeBlanc.
problem with the situation in the town.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, the buzzer.
That's all right, yeah. That buzzer does it every time. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I know we only have 30 seconds. My name is Bobby Jackson, military veteran, for all you veterans out there. I worked at the sheriff's office, and I do know about budgeting. I've budgeted for quite a few years, and I do work in facts, and that's the only thing that probably sets me apart. I work in numbers, I work in facts, and don't let my emotions get the best of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baudouin.
Yes, I have based my law enforcement career the way I have lived my life, and that is knowing at the end of the day that I have helped everyone that has crossed my path. So win or lose, I want people to know that I have my victory already. Win or lose, Team Spike has his victory. So don't give up, good citizens. Stand with me. There are good times ahead of us. So please vote on October 24th for David Spike Baudouin as your next sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our forum, and now I'd like to give a round of applause. I think it's been a great forum. Appreciate all the candidates being here, but do that. Appreciate the time and effort put forth by these candidates. Once again, I'd like to recognize the sponsors, the Leadership Iberia, the Great Iberia Chamber of Commerce, the Daily Iberian. Don't forget, you can watch it on youtube.com/Good News in Iberia. Also, the Chamber supporting a yes vote to all 5 propositions relative to the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter amendments on October 21st. Thank you and good night.
I don't think